do people have available, what's their food preferences, how does what they choose to eat, how does it impact their body. And obviously there are some people who can't fight fast with those things we call light food. They have to eat the swallow. For some people that's what's available to them. So how do we guide them to still eat those foods, and then ensure that they're able to meet their health needs. And so when we talk about sawu is very important for people managing health condition, even people who are not managing health condition. I think it's one of the things that has been encouraged for us to start our fasting. So the goal of sawu is not to feel full. It's more about how do I create steady energy through the day. How am I ensuring that my energy, steady energy levels, stable blood sugar, minimal stomach irritation for people who have ulcers, for example. And so that's the goal. How do I ensure that I'm able to achieve all of this all through the period of fasting? And so foods that actually work should be something that obviously slows digestion. It's not something you eat and then almost immediately is or maybe in a couple of hours it's been digested. So you're thinking about what should I have on my plate that helps to slow that digestion, that prevents blood sugar spikes, and then keep you full for a longer time. And then when we talk about this food, obviously protein is very important. Protein helps you to stabilize your blood sugar. It keeps you full for a longer time. And when we talk about protein food, obviously your eggs, your fish, your chicken, your lentils, if you someone who likes lentils. I think lentils is my new form of love now. Lentils, beans, you have all of that. So you ensure that you have your plate is well balanced. So protein is very important on that plate. You also want to go for what we call high fiber, complex carbohydrate or slow digesting carbohydrate foods. And so this helps you to release glucose into your bloodstream regularly, supplying steady energy without causing spikes in your blood sugar. And that does also help. And when we talk about that, we're thinking about your plantain, your whole grain foods, your oatmeal, you're talking about yam, and high fiber foods like vegetables, ugu, shoko, any of those leafy vegetables that you enjoy, even non-leafy ones can be part of that meal, which does helps to keep you full and also balances your blood sugar levels. And then lastly, you want to ensure that you have healthy fat sources on your plate. You're talking about your cashew nuts, not necessarily cashew nut. Obviously, if you like nuts, obviously not everybody would, and some people are also allergic to nuts. But if you do tolerate nuts, you could think about your nut, avocado, seeds, egusi, for example. If you're eating the foil egusi, it's a good one to have on your meal if you're doing swallow. And then chia seed is another newfound food that a lot of people want to add to their meals these days. They are good sources. And what fat does is that it helps slows digestion. And what that does is that it's also helping releasing energy gradually. And so that stabilizes your blood sugar through the day, and that way it does help. And I think lastly, ensuring that you have hydrating foods on your plate would be really helpful, because dehydration is one of the common health conditions or symptoms that people end up having during Ramadan. So ensuring that your meals also contains hydrating foods, most especially if when you're breaking that fast because you've stayed for a longer time without any drink or food, that would also be helpful. And things that can obviously um affect fasting, or maybe not so good foods that shouldn't be things that you're prioritizing at that time. For example, if you have ulcer, you don't want to do a lot of spicy foods, you don't want to do a lot of acidic foods, because those are things that could irritate your stomach lining and then trigger ulcer pain. And once that happens, you struggle all through the day. And if you are somebody who has very chronic ulcer, it then means you're at risk of bleeding and you might not be able to complete fasting. That's just what it means. You also don't want to go for highly processed or sugary foods if you have diabetes. Even if you don't have diabetes, the truth is people who don't have diabetes, also if you go for those sugary foods, you have the high energy spike, sugar spikes, and then it crashes, and then that's the end. You're feeling full, hungry all through the day. And then salty food, if you're having high blood sugar levels, even without high blood sugar level, anyone consuming a lot high very salty foods, that can help you increase urination. You're going to pee often, and then that can lead to more fluid loss, and that way you feel more dehydrated all through the day. So things like this should be. And then a lot of fried foods, which is something that is very common, especially at a store. You're frying the pop-off, you're frying the akara, you're frying the samosa. That time is more of this thing. So avoiding a lot of fried foods would also really be helpful to help you ensure that you're maintaining that nutrition to support your health through.
Fantastic. Speaking of Sa'or, because I mean, we'll get to iftar, even though you seem to have preempted my next question. But I will take you back to Sahur. You've given us a list of food options that people should consume, particularly those living with hypertension, ulcer, and diabetes. But I want to also ask you, can it be too much? Because, for example, you've talked about proteins, and somebody can say, oh, well, they've told us that we can take proteins. Now, I will take boiled eggs. So maybe they would say, I'll take 5 or 6 boiled eggs. Or maybe they would tell them, oh, now that you can take water, you take like so much. And before you know what is happening, you visit the restroom often and often. And in the afternoon, you're already dehydrated. So, can the intake of these meals, can they be too much?
Well, obviously, you can overeat, you can overdo things, and even a healthy food. Like to tell people, you can overeat healthy food, and so I think it's all about balance. Also, as much as you want to eat these meals, and one of the things Ramadan also, brings into place when Ramadan, when we start fasting, is discipline also around foods. Overeating, and it obviously overeating or will put your health at risk. It will overload your body and put your body under stress itself. And so if you drink too much water, for example, you end up peeing, like you did say, peeing, or actually at once, you will end up peeing it. So there's a need to think about balance when you're having your meal. There's a need for that balance because you can't especially in the morning, a lot of people struggle with sahur because it's quite early for them to eat. And so you find that many people struggle with sahur and are only able to manage, portion control is, can be easily achieved for some people, during sahur time because it's quite still early. But I think if there is where a lot of people struggle, in terms of amount that they choose to eat, but irrespective of the meal, there's that need for balance, ensuring that you're not overdoing what you choose to have. And I know that there's also these everyone is saying high protein, high protein, high protein, so that you don't if that you don't feel hungry. The truth is the way your body is. The goal of when we say ensure you have enough protein on your plate is so that, because I did say earlier, protein helps keep you full for a longer time. And then for people who have diabetes, for example, it doesn't cause spikes in their blood sugar levels. So that there's that stable thing. But obviously when you overdo things, that also is not the best for your body. Your body would only use what it needs, and then the rest is gone. So I would just say it's more of balance. So it's ensuring that when you choose to break your fast or when you choose to start your fast, you're not overloading with sugary foods, you're not overloading with protein foods, also you're not overloading with large portion of meals, you're not drinking too much, but at the end of the day you just also pee that almost immediately because your body sees it as excessive and then it wants to take that out of your body. So ensuring that you're balancing your plate, having fat, you're having protein, you're having carbohydrate foods, fiber, everything all balanced, but in moderate portions, is what's best for your body.
That's fantastic. You said social pressure and self preservation earlier on when you were talking about the mindset shift that has to happen, particularly with people living with hypertension, ulcer, and diabetes. And we also know that Ramadan is a time to give, it's a time to share. And like you rightly pointed to earlier on, it's a time that when you visit, for example, a mosque, you see a lot of persons just distributing things and you're tempted to want to take because of the social pressure. So I want to ask you, now we're going to iftar. We've talked extensively about sahur. What do you advise, or what do you think is the safest and smartest way for somebody living with hypertension, diabetes, or ulcer to break their fast?
Okay. Um, in breaking fast, I think one for people managing these conditions, it's very important for them to think about starting in a gentle way to break their fast. And so when I say gentle, obviously gentle fast means you're not rushing in to eat your meals because your body has fasted for so many hours and then your body is sensitive at that time. So overloading with a lot of things would obviously put pressure on your body, and once that happens, it could cause blood sugar spikes, it could cause it could trigger stomach pain, it could cause bloating, it could cause dizziness. Have you seen times when you eat sometimes and you rush that food and then the next thing you're feeling so tired and then just feeling dizzy almost at the same time? For somebody who's got ulcer, it could have immediate trigger depending on what you've had, and then that can put you in pain. Obviously, it could also cause blood sugar fluctuations, I mean, blood pressure fluctuations if you rush into food. So thinking gentle first means, okay, you're breaking your date with, 1 or 2 dates, and then you're drinking water, and then calming down after, having that. Maybe eat a piece of fruit if you have ulcer, not acidic fruit, not oranges, not pineapples. If you have ulcer, because those can trigger your ulcer pain. But you could go for watermelon. You could do, maybe a finger of banana, for example, which can really help, calm. Dates is also quite good for people with ulcer because it helps to, neutralize the acid that might have been produced in their stomach. So that's quite good. But obviously, going gentle, and usually we would break our fast before Maghrib. So you want to then, go for your Maghrib prayer and then come back to your main meals. But like I said, culturally, I think what we see is that we have akara and pap waiting for us immediately we break our fast, and that's not the main meal. But
Yes.
I always like to tell people, even akara and pap is main meal, is a food on its own. We would eat it as a meal outside of Ramadan. So how come in Ramadan is not a meal for us? It's just like extra to start with.
Appetizer, appetizer.
Appetizer. And so it's really very important to understand that if you choose to have that, that should, obviously be a meal for you, especially if you are managing health condition. Obviously, if you also want to lose weight and do things like that, you also don't want to overdo it. And people think that I think the thing with pap is that we think pap is water, but pap also has calories in it. And so, but for people with ulcer, actually, pap is a very good one for them. It also helps, it has as a natural antacid, which helps to, neutralize, stomach acid, and thus, so is a good one for them, really. But the goal is that, or maybe the point is, don't overdo the meals. If you want to eat pap and akara as your meal, which obviously it shouldn't be all the time, because akara is also fried, and obviously we use a lot of oil in that, but it's just ensuring that you're able to balance that out. So I did say start gently, and ensuring your plate is balanced. And when we talk about balanced plate also, I did talk about, ensuring that on your plate you've got protein, you've got steady carbohydrate releasing foods, you've got, foods that are rich in fiber. And so what that really translates is that if you choose, for example, to eat swallow, eba, or any of the swallow, you want to ensure that you have the swallow food, you have enough vegetables on your plate, you have your fish or meat. What we do normally is that we eat swallow and vegetables. That means your swallow is the biggest on the plate, and then your vegetables like the small side of things, and then you have your fish. But if you, for example, are dealing, trying to manage your blood sugar levels, or you want to ensure you have that stable balance, your swallow should be smaller, your vegetables should be more. So it should be vegetable and swallow, and not swallow and vegetable. So that way you're able to, balance things out. If you have blood pressure, obviously, and when you eat, fruits, that also helps. Vegetables in your meals also helps. Some of these vegetables are quite rich in potassium, and then they can also help balance. Date is rich in potassium, bananas are rich in potassium, and so those can have positive impact on your blood pressure levels, and can also help people who have ulcer also. So just ensuring that plate is balanced. If it's rice that you choose to go for, ensure you have enough vegetables on your plate, your protein, and the fat source. So a plate of rice could be like, you have rice. If you like avocado, you could have slices of avocado on that plate. You could have your chicken or meat or fish, protein or egg, whichever protein you choose to go for. And then you could have stir fry. You could have, maybe vegetable soup. Depending on the kind of vegetables that you have, more variety is also, really good. But the goal, is about how you fasted for a long time, without food. How do I ensure that my plate is balanced enough to keep my blood sugar level stable all through the night before the next day one. So it's also avoiding a lot of fried foods, avoiding overeating. Like I said, by the time you drink your bowl of akara and pap, and then you start the next day. For people with diabetes, it's also very important to know that pap can, raise your blood sugar level up, because pap is majorly carbohydrate, and so drinking a big bowl of pap in addition to another meal. Even drinking a big bowl of pap on its own is a lot of carbs in your meals, and then drinking it with then as a step down before your main meal is even a lot of carbohydrates coming into that, and so there's likely that you would have that spikes in your blood sugar. If you choose to drink pap, or if that's what you want to have, as somebody who is managing diabetes, you could then say, how do you ensure that you have a small portion of pap? You could add, some nuts to the pap. People drink, I've seen people drinking pap and granules, right? And
I
so
do.
you could also have some peanut butter into your pap, or you could add some avocado, blend it into smooth paste, add it to your pap, obviously. And so that way it helps, ensure that it has better impact on your blood sugar level. And then what you choose to combine with that pap is also very important. Ensure that you have maybe, chicken, protein. You can still enjoy life still, even with that. But when you choose to then do it the other way, it can likely shoot your blood sugar levels up. And then you start to, really struggle with that. If you have ulcer, you also don't want to do a lot of fried things or, peppery or um, pepper soup is quite good. I think I did pen that down. You could do, because pepper soup obviously would also provide hydration, and but ensuring that it's not spicy
Too
pepper soup.
peppery. Yeah.
Yes, so don't use a lot of spices, but that is also another way where you're still then having that pepper soup as a meal with whatever uh, combination you choose to have it, but it's still hydrating you, and that contributes to your intake. So the goal is think about how do you eat to ensure stable energy source, no stomach irritation, and then you're not having fluctuations in your blood sugar levels.
Thank you so much. I was going to ask you next about you going a bit more granular, particularly for those with diabetes, in terms of planning and iftar table for them. Saying if you break your fast, you break with this, do this, and do that. But you've already highlighted that maybe you want to share more later on. But I just want to quickly say that we have more persons on the call now. Thank you so much for joining us. And in case someone just shared the link and you're not sure what we're doing here, it's the Sekina Quarterly Health Talk. We do this, like I said, it's quarterly, and we do it every quarter to help healthier choices. And it is put together by the Sakina Medical Outreach. And I just want to quickly say that at the Sakina Medical Outreach, we've been doing fantastic work thanks to the funding and the donations that we get from people like you. Thank you so much. Just to very quickly say that, for cataract surgeries, we've done over 1,500 things, and over 3,000 households have benefited from our services. And this is just within a short period, not what we've done since, we've started in Sakina Medical Outreach. So again, we cannot do all of these things without your incredible support. So please donate, support our cause. My colleague will drop account details in the chat. Make sure you just send us something, no matter how small you think it is. It's going to help somebody in the long run. And we're also very active on social media. Make sure you're following us on our social media platforms. We do outreaches in different communities, marketplaces. Basically, we want you to make healthier choices. And we know that information is key. So please ensure that you're engaging with our work, you're supporting us, you're amplifying our messages, and inshallah, in case we have non-Muslims here, it means by the special grace of God, we will do more to support Nigerians needy by the special grace of God again. So, Steve, back to you. Some people say that I feel weak, dizzy, and irritable when fasting. Yeah, they don't want to do anything from morning till night. They're just sleeping because I know that fasting is not very easy, for a number of persons. So, from a nutrition perspective, what are the most common mistakes causing this, and how can we fix them?
So, obviously, we okay. Different people would go through, would fast and have different experiences, and our bodies are quite different, and so each person has unique. But we have some people who can go long days even without fasting, and then they're doing quite well, and we have people who would struggle to do that, and they have to obviously just eat often. And then you have people who have health conditions who they need to, depending on either their medications, the timing, the dosage, and things like that, they need to either eat more and then, maybe eat specific things. So it's quite different from everybody. But I think, some of the common mistakes that people sometimes make that make them experience that. So sometimes it's not just because they are fasting, it could be the choices they've made before starting that fast. For example, if you have too much, maybe for your sahur, you then have a lot of sugar in your food, sugary foods. Maybe you are the type that drinks a lot of cereals, and the cereals that you choose to go for are the ones that, the high sugar cereals. And so what then happens is that you've eaten that meal, maybe you didn't have enough protein in the meal, you didn't have fiber to keep you full in the meal, and then it's just maybe just, plain milk and cereal, what happens is that once you eat that food, in a couple of hours, that would get digested. You have that spike, and then once that happens, you have the crash. You start feeling really weak, really dizzy, and so to fix that, obviously, is ensuring that on your plate you have more of the slow digesting carbs. With the balance, ensuring that your plate is quite balanced. Sorry, excuse me.
Sorry.
So ensuring that the plate is quite balanced for you, and that can also help, obviously, preventing that spikes. What you can also do is, some people skip sahur just because, for different reasons. Some people don't feel really comfortable, eating sahur. Some people think it's just too early. I would rather just go through the day without that. And so it's very important that if you haven't had, that sorrow, you're going all through fasting for 12 to, depending on which part of the world you are, anyway, 12 hours, 18 hours, depending. And so if you're going that for that length of time and you haven't, had anything in the morning, as, and encourage and advice, you might likely then, be at risk of feeling, very weak, having very low energy levels. And so I tell people that what you can do is, if you're somebody who don't enjoy eating a lot, or you can't eat main meals, you have the smoothie options that you could go for example, if you do a banana avocado smoothie, or you do like a peanut banana smoothie or something, it's easier to drink those things than saying that you want to eat main meal. So if you find it easier to drink, then you want to go for healthy drinks that can have that combination of still the fat, fiber, and just as I've explained, but in more of a drink form, and then you drink it, and that keeps you healthy, or at least provide that stable energy for you for the early hours of the fasting, rather than you not doing anything at all, and that also crushes your energy level. So that could be an option for some people if they struggle with their sahur. And if that's fixed, it helps help prevent some of the dizziness that people will feel, or the weakness that they feel. Also, dehydration, like I said, one of the common health conditions, during Ramadan is or symptoms, people feeling very dehydrated, just because if you don't, plan your hydration properly, you are at that risk of, feeling dehydrated. So it then means that you want to ensure that you're between iftar and the next sahur, you're consuming enough fluid all through that period. And so I like to tell people, just get a dedicated water bottle when it's time for when Ramadan starts. Your water bottle, number one, it serves as something that you can use to measure and gauge how much fluid you've drank once you break your fast, and between when you break your fast and the next day. It also serves as a visual reminder for you to say, oh, I haven't drank enough water. Do I want to sip some more water? From that, it's also very easy, because if you get a very portable water bottle, that means it's anywhere you're going, you can carry this water bottle along. And so it means that you could take that water bottle along when you're going to the mosque for Tarawih, for example. You could fill it up, you could sip water at regular interval. If you choose to drink the water at once, what will likely happen is you keep running to the restroom to pee. But if you sip more at the regular interval, you might find it really easier for you. So you could then in between each unit of prayer, for example, you could drink water, sip. It's time, before you go on to the next unit of prayer. That way you're able to even sustain hydration. You also don't want to drink too much. People struggle when they drink too much close to when they want to sleep, because that means they're waking up early. So it means that if you're able to sip at regular intervals, and then when you wake up for, people wake up in the morning before Sahur to do prayers and things, you could then continue. And so having that bottle helps you get how much of the fluid you're having. So maybe setting a water goal to say, okay, maybe a minimum of this amount of water before, the next day, can really keep you hydrated. And when your body is well hydrated, what it means is that you are, at less risk of headaches, dizziness, because your body is, well hydrated and able to carry through the next day. Another mistake people, obviously make is, going on heavy fried foods, and that can lead to bloating. It can lead to, and when you have bloating, maybe at one, if you've eaten a lot of heavy food, and then you have that symptom of, bloating, fatigue, and, some people become really gassy. That can really, extend through the next day and really make, your body feel very uncomfortable. So that could be another mistake. So rather than doing a lot of fried things, do you want to, do less of frying, go for more healthier meals option? And obviously, you could do fries, or like I say, once in a while, but it shouldn't be the bulk of your meal, and then you're doing a lot of fried things all the time. That can and it's not even only about fried things. When you use a lot of oil, fat or oil in your cooking, also that may also contribute, especially for people having ulcer. You don't want to overdo fat, because that could also irritate, and then increase your risk of having the pain. And then too much caffeine for some people, or some people, they would drink heavy, strong tea. Like that tea has to be very strong. The black tea, it has to be very strong, and that's a lot of caffeine that could go into their body. And caffeine, acts like a diuretic. It could make you, increase your urination, and then when you urinate often, you're losing more fluid, and when you're losing more fluid, you're getting dehydrated, and your body's becoming, weaker, and that, obviously happens. And then I think the last thing is obviously when you overeat. After breaking your fast, that could cause sluggishness, and even to stand up and go and pray so becomes an issue because you've overloaded your body at that point. And
Yeah.
so these are things that you really need to consider to ensure that some of the symptoms are being able to you're able to manage them quite well.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to go to the next question, which is on juicing your fruits. So, do you advise you take it as a whole or you just say, because this is also something that a lot of people talk about on social media? They say, well, I don't do carbonated drinks, I only do juices. But sometimes when you juice versus when you take as a whole, you don't take the same amount of sugar and other things as well. But before you respond to this, I just want to quickly say to our listeners right now that you would also get an opportunity to ask a question. So please, if you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat or you can just raise your hand and I will give you the microphone to ask your questions. You can respond now, ma'am.
So the matter of juice is really quite, obviously funny. And what I would advise, what I often advise, is that the truth is all fruits are better than the juice, even if it's 100% juiced fruits. If for people who have diabetes, for example, all fruit is a better option for you, and that's because when you make your juice, for example, let's think about orange. Let's use orange as an example. The amount of orange you would need to make maybe a cup of orange juice, you might need up to 3 to 4 oranges, for example. But if you are to eat that same amount of oranges, you might not be able to go through the four. And so that's one. If you don't juice your oranges, your orange, you have, the fiber is in there, all those inner parts that people used to throw away. They're a very good source of fiber for you, and that can really help, improve or stabilize your blood sugar because you're consuming that. But when you juice is more like you're taking out, you're not, doing anything with the fiber, and then you're just having the plain juice, which is also sugar. It might be natural, but obviously it's natural sugar that you're having. So if you drink that, obviously it could cause spikes, depending on the amount. And even when we talk about, the daily recommendation of fruits and vegetables that you should consume, you can't have juice, but juice is just should be like one of the five that is being recommended to have. And what that means, the serving of juice is just about 150 mils of juice is what we consider a serving of juice. And so if you think about how much juice you end up having, you would drink, a lot at the end of the day, and that could be, a lot of juice for you. And so for somebody who is managing diabetes, obviously that's not the best option for them. So I would advise to go for all fruits instead of the juice. Occasionally people who don't have diabetes could have it, but it's all about how much of this you're choosing to have. You don't want to overdose on juice because you think it's an healthy option, but obviously it contains, because it's gone through that processing of blending and extracting the juice that you have in there, and so it's more of the sugar, the fiber is not there anymore, and then that can put cause spikes in your blood sugar level if you drink a lot of it. And when you choose to drink it or what you choose to drink it with also really matters. Many times when we choose to drink those things, is that you're pairing with a biscuit, you're pairing pop-off or some other very carbohydrate dense food. And so if you're managing diabetes, obviously that's not the best option for you, because even the whole fruits for people who are having diabetes needs to be portion your control. You need to portion sizes matters when you're even choosing to eat fruit. As somebody who is living with diabetes, you don't want to just eat a lot of fruit because you can't eat fruit. So those are things you need to consider when you're choosing to have the juice. So I would say obviously all fruit is a better option.
Thank you so much. And finally, from our end, for people who cannot fast daily due to their conditions, how can nutrition still help them participate meaningfully in Ramadan? Perhaps maybe through meal planning, charity feeding, and spiritual discipline.
So for people who are not able to fast at all, is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes. They can't fast daily or they can fast at all.
Okay. So I think it's still about ensuring that your meals, nutrition is still very important, whether you're in a fasting state or you are in a non-fasting state. And if you're still living with those health conditions, I know that, a lot of people wants to, we all, nobody wants to be left out, feeling like, oh, I can't fast. And I see this, I hear people say, oh, so I'm not going to fast. But the good thing that some people are able to, some people living with diabetes are able to, um, if their doctor says it's quite, safe for them to fast, some are able to still fast. I know somebody who is able to alternate her fasting days. She doesn't fast every day, obviously, but she's able to alternate it. But it's all on your clearance of your doctor, having gone through, or, of it, a medical checkup, and then if they say it's safe. But if you can't fast at all, obviously, Islam also, give us that room to, there are other things you can do, but your diet is also still very important. And so it's still the same principle, like I did say, ensuring that your plate is, is well balanced. You still have, healthy protein source, healthy, fat source on your plate, your vegetables, your hydration, irrespective, whatever you choose to eat. If you are the swallow person, still go, obviously for the swallow foods. If you are not fasting and you're somebody who has diabetes, for example, it might be that, depending on your medication and your timing, your frequency, and all of that, you might still need to then still do your breakfast, lunch, and evening meals. You don't want to say, oh, because you don't want people to see you eating, and then you're skipping the meals when you're on medication that could then cause low blood sugar levels and put you at risk, obviously, depending on the severity of your diabetes and what the management or the type of medication you're using around it is, but ensuring that it's well balanced. If you are the cereal person, if you're doing oatmeal, for example, some people will add chia seed into their oatmeal, some people add some nuts into their oatmeal, and oatmeal can even be more interesting than having it with nuts. You could still have your oatmeal and chia seed and still, combine it with, for example, scrambled egg. You could have it the efori roll and your fish. You could have it with, other combination. It doesn't have to be nuts, especially for people who have nut allergies. So there are different combination of things or, ways you could still choose and to have your meal. If you are the rice people, then you can still, if you are people for bread too, obviously there's a need for portion. You don't want to be doing 5, 6 slices in your meal, especially if you're having diabetes, because bread is also a very good source. Whether you're having white bread or wheat bread, it's still a good source of, carbohydrate in your meals. And if you overeat, it can still shoot your blood sugar level up. So you want to be, really cautious of your portion size, 1 to 2 slices, and then you're combining with more of the. If you're doing scrambled egg, for example, add more vegetables, tomatoes, onions, a lot of vegetables into your egg that increases the bulk of the egg, while you're still then able to manage a small amount of what's it called, of carbohydrate food there. And so a good guide would then be to say that if you have a plate, for example, serve your plate with a small meal, serve your meal with a small plate, and then half of it you have more vegetables, then you have your protein, and then you have that smaller portion of carbohydrate on the meal to ensure that you're able to, balance that for it. And so in terms of charity feeding, obviously we have that opportunity to feed. If you're not fasting, you can feed a fasting person. So you also want to, pray that if you're able to provide meals for them, or if you're able to, I know that some people would do that, and then you're able to provide, the meals to them. So it's even just getting yourself involved in that, process of, oh, can I volunteer, or can I also provide those meals for people who are not fasting? That could also really help and help you feel that you're still in that spirit of Ramadan. But obviously, there are so many other acts of worship aside from fasting that you can still really engage in. Set your goals, plan your day. What do you need to do? Even if you're not fasting, you can still be in that spirit of Ramadan. The only thing you're not able to do is the fast. And then obviously, it's because of your health conditions. And, Allah, knows why that's, happening to you. Allah knows why you're going through that. And so it could be, an opportunity for you to then leverage on other aspect of worship to still ensure that you're able to still optimize Ramadan, to your own benefit. But I think if you're not fasting and getting involved, feeding other people that are fasting can, give you that fulfillment that even if when you're not able to fast, you're still able to provide LD meals for people who are fasting, or maybe you're able to support people who are, doing that for them.
Thank you so much, sis. I have a question here, although it's a little bit out of the scope, but I think that's one of the advantages of joining sessions like this. You get to ask questions that are not even within the focus. So this person is asking, Humar is asking, what advice will you give to breastfeeding mothers in this Ramadan?
Well, for people who want to breastfeed, I know that some people obviously struggle breastfeeding because if child is breastfeeding a lot, depending on the age of the child at the moment, I would say that if you're is also similar. I mean, in balancing your plate, you also want to ensure that you have that combination of the different nutrients that I did explain earlier. You have it on your plate, and also hydration is very important for somebody who is breastfeeding. So you want to utilize those times outside of the fasting period to ensure that you are breastfeeding well. If your child is still breastfeeding but able to eat other meals, for example, your child is 6 months and above, so it means they've started having some other meals. I mean, the solids, purees and things like that. So it means that you may want to really strategize such that once fasting starts, they are having more of those purees, and then after you break your fast, you can then do breastfeeding for them. And also some people would breastfeed into the night or even during the night, with their kids. So that way, it helps conserves your energy because the child is able to have something else aside from breast milk. And so that's one way to really optimize your energy, to say, okay, let the child during period of fasting then have something else. But if your child is below 6 months, obviously what we promote is exclusive breastfeeding. And so it means that you also want to look at what you get involved in. Aside from your diet, you want to ensure that you're conserving your energy through the day. If you're if it, depending on the weather, you don't want to go under the sun where you can then easily be dehydrated, you lose a lot of water. You don't want to involve in very strenuous activity that can then make you feel very weak. So it's just looking at what else can you do outside of nutrition in your day that can still help you and preserve your energy. I hope that's really helpful.
Yeah, it is. Thank you so very much. We have Sister Halima Bashir. Her hand is raised and she would like to ask a question. So please unmute your microphone and talk to us, ma'am.
Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum
You can hear
assalam.
me. Thank you for this session. I am suffering from H. pylori right now. I'm not a regular ulcer patient, so when I saw this, I quickly joined. Just hear what you have to say. I know you're a nutritionist and I'm on antibiotics right now. But my question is if you can just, I don't know, you're not a doctor, I don't know what a doctor is. I've asked other people that have suffered from H. pylori. They don't have hunger issues. I'm always hungry. I'm just hungry. And fasting is coming in all my years. I'm 52 years old. I have never missed fasting. And when I'm fasting, I don't even eat during supper. I eat only once. At Sahur, I just take dates and water. So it's heavy for me mentally right now. I'm struggling with it that I may not be able to fast because I'm always hungry. So I don't know. I eat oats, I eat swallows and everything, but I'm hungry. I don't know why I'm so hungry. That is my
Th-
question.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I struggle to hear you a little bit, but I believe that
I struggle
she
to hear it.
okay. But did you get a question?
what
Yes.
I what I did here is that she is currently treating H. pylori ulcer,
Okay.
and she's on antibiotic medication. And then she would eat, but she's always hungry. If that's and then she's wanting to know what exactly is making her feel very hungry.
Yes, that's my question.
That's your question.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously with ulcer treatment and all like it said, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not able to provide I'm not able to provide
So,
any.
so, sorry, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Ajia Halima, could you please mute so that you can hear her clearly? Thank you, ma'am. What
So
to you?
like I did say, I'm not a doctor, and so I'm not able to provide advice on medication and any of those things. And so the feeling of hunger may be related and may not be related. Obviously, there are so many things that could also increase your hunger, or your feeling of hunger that might not even have to do with ulcer, right? And so, but I would also, just because you did mention that you would have maybe water and dates for sahur, and I'm wondering that if you maybe have more, you know, meal that is more filling. For example, I did talk about ensuring that you have that balance of food on your plate. And if you're somebody who struggle with eating the main meal, do you want to consider maybe things like smoothies where you have a good combination of healthy fiber, protein, healthy fat sources. For example, if you're making it could be date and avocado, and date avocado and maybe something else in that smoothie that helps keep you full for a longer time. That may help you manage your hunger. But I'm saying that if this is something that's going on even outside of Ramadan, that goes off often, it might be helpful also to maybe go for further medical assessment to see if there are other underlying conditions that could be responsible for the feeling of hunger. I work as a clinical dietitian, and I know that there are other conditions that could lead to the frequent feeling of hunger that you're not able to manage. Like I said, I don't know what your medical history is, and and it might not be totally linked to the ulcer, and it could be obviously linked to the ulcer. So just you thinking about your sahur, because even when you then have only date and water for sahur, then you're likely to feel more hungry before it's time for you to break your fast. So maybe looking at what choices, other choices you could make in that. For example, if you're choosing to have date and water, are you able to eat maybe some boiled eggs with that meal? If you are not a smoothie person, are you able to have some nuts with your date, for example, if you're not somebody who eats heavy meals? And that could be a better option for you that can keep you full for a longer time. Are you able to have maybe a kind of protein with that date when it's not the main meal? So but if you're just eating dates, and for somebody who feels hungry very often, then it means you are likely to still feel very often all through the day. But I'll still say obviously to see, if you're really worried about that, continuous feeling of hunger, there's something called hyperphagia, and there are different reasons why somebody could have it. And maybe for that assessment could really be helpful to help you understand exactly why. Some people also feel hungry actually when they are using antibiotics. So I don't know if it's a common thing recently, but when you're using antibiotics, there's that likelihood when you're doing your antibiotic treatment that you feel really hungry at that point. I don't know. So it's just really mixed. Like I said, I'm not sure what the history is, except what you've told me, and this is what I'm able to just advise.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am. We also have Mr. Isa's hand raised. Please keep your question very short.
Thank you very much, the presenter. Thank you very much. You have actually discussed extensively about the issue of dehydration. There is this controversy, and I will be grateful if you can just make your ruling on it. One, there is one school of thought that whenever you are eating, you should not drink cold water, that the oil in our food and the cold water, they are not friendly at all, and it can lead to stroke. That is one school of thought. The second school of thought said, look, the way our Allah created our stomach, even though if one likes, he can go and swallow the whole block of water, it will dissolve. So that one can go ahead drinking cold water while eating. Which of the school of thought should we follow? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that question, and I think I agree with you. This has been, it's been online, online discussions in so many settings. People wanting to know if cold water actually. I've heard that at some point cold water could cause even kidney damage. I've heard so many things about cold water, but what I would say is, and my own, obviously as a professional, my own line of thought is that the way our body is created, like you did say, your body can regulate. And the cold water that you drink is not going to get to your stomach as cold water. Your body, obviously regulates it, and then in that process of going down all through your, once you've drank it, going down, there's a way your body can regulate this thing to the temperature that it's needed. Just like normally we also eat cold foods, and then it also goes down. But by the time it gets into your stomach, for example, it would be, your body's able to regulate that temperature. However, obviously, if you're drinking very cold water, what could happen could be that the process of, because your body would then take some time to regulate the temperature, for example, coming from there, it might slows down things slightly compared to if you drink, for example, warm water, and then it's already in almost that near temperature that your body needs it. But I always say that it depends on. I'm not. I don't say don't drink cold water, because I know you can drink it and your body can work and regulate this water to the temperature it needs to digest. And I don't think, no, it's not going to cause stroke. The fact that drinking cold water will cause stroke, I don't think that way. The concern would be around the issue of digestion, not that whether it's going to cause cold whether it will cause stroke or not. I haven't seen any research that says drinking cold water during your meals causes cold water. But I think it's more of issues around digestion, how that happens. But your body is able to also regulate your temperature. I mean, the temperature of the things that you eat, and put it in the form where it's able to utilize it better. And so I think that's from the angle where I would advise if you, but obviously there's need for a balance, and how cold, for example, the water you're choosing to drink is. But I also know that for some people, and this is where our body is quite different, I've seen people who, when they drink cold water, obviously their body struggles a lot, especially with digestion process. They feel very heavy because they've drank a lot of cold water. And so if that's what happens to your body, obviously you might then not want to do a lot of cold water. And so it could also be from the angle of how your body gets to deal with things that you have, and then you're able to work with that.
All right, thank you so much. We are behind schedule, but because we didn't start at exactly 10 o'clock, I will take Ajia Rashidat, and that will be the final question to you for today. Over to you, ma'am. Always is, we love to have you here. I was saying earlier that the way you talk about these things, one could tell that you're truly a teacher, because you talk to us as though you're speaking to a primary two student or even a nursery one pupil. It's so very granular. You explain in ways that we're truly able to comprehend. And we just want to say thank you to you, for always doing justice to the. And I want to encourage our listeners right now, and those that probably listen to the recording later, that she has an organization, Poisera Nutrition. So if you want a bit more special, if you want to go a bit more, specialized with us, sort of, please reach our institution. Bit more specialized with us. So please check out on Instagram, Poisera Nutrition. I think I'm going to drop it in the chat as well. She can help you create your meal plans and just advise you on a more professional level. So the conversation goes beyond here. So also to mention that, at the Sakina Medical Outreach, we're doing a lot of fantastic work, and we cannot do this without your support. Your support means so much to us. So please, donate to our cause, follow us on social media, engage with us, tell people about the incredible work that we're doing, and we know that God Almighty will reward you abundantly. My colleague will drop the account details in the chat. She would also drop our social media handles in the chat. So please do well to follow us, engage with us, and importantly, donate to our cause. We really, really like you doing that. We also have a website. We will be dropping that as well. And so we also have a website. We'll be dropping that as well. Please ensure that you're engaging with us. It is very, very important. So our website is www.sakinaaoutreach.org, spelled SAKINAH, outreach.org. So please tell people about what we're doing. Support us. We cannot do all the free surgeries without your incredible support. So again, I will not stop emphasizing this. Please support us. It is very important. So right about now, I will be inviting our Oga at the top. Is a father, a leader, and a role model. He's been very supportive of our work. And, even though they're not paid to do this thing, they do this thing, lillahi wa rasulihi. But you can tell the level of commitment and passion that they put into doing this incredible work. So please, a round of applause. I'm not asking you to clap like this. This is not noisy, but please. Hello, sir, if you can hear me, please. Oh, I saw him on the call earlier. I don't know if he's still on the call with us. Let me double check.
Okay, assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Okay, thank you for the good work, and thank you to Sister Folashade for these wonderful lectures, and you have all benefited immensely from this. Jazakallah khairan, and I thank all the participants for taking out time to participate in these lectures. I will encourage us to further engage with the lecturer for further clarifications on our healthy diet as we enter Ramadan. I wish all of us Ramadan Kareem. May Allah accept our ibadah during and after the holy month of Ramadan and see us so many more Ramadan, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Ameen. Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you so much, sir. Just before we call it a day, I'd like to please ask that you drop your email addresses in the chat so we can maybe send the recording of this call with you if you're interested. And we also have newsletters that we do every now and then. So please endeavor to drop your email addresses. Would like to connect with you further beyond this conversation. And as promised, I'm also dropping the link to Sister Folashade's organization, Poisera Nutrition. That's her on Instagram. She does fantastic work there. So if you would like any specialized, training or nutrition plan, please reach out to her. She's very affordable, very professional, very friendly. You can already feel her energy from this call. So please reach out to her, and I'm sure she's able to guide you accordingly. And of course, don't forget to connect with Sekina Medical Outreach across social media platforms and donate to us, please. If you cannot donate, make sure you're amplifying the messages. Share with your contact persons. You never can tell who is able to support us. But importantly, let's work together to help elevate not just poverty in Nigeria, but provide medical interventions for people who are not able to afford it. Thank you so much, and Ramadan Mubarak in advance to the Muslims here that would fast, and to the non-Muslims. Thank you so much for being a part of today's session, and we'll see you next quarter, inshallah.
Alaikum.
Thanks so much. Jazakallah khairan.